In the heart of an endless ocean, under a starlit sky, Jacob, a skilled but reserved navigator, was lost in his thoughts. He'd heard the same rumors of an unknown island, a place that seemed to defy the natural order, a land inhabited by alien women who aged at a fraction of a human's pace. Unlike anyone else, Jacob was drawn by the sheer mystery of it, more curious than afraid. For as long as he could remember, Jacob had been captivated by stories of unexplored lands, mythical places hiding secrets beyond human comprehension. So when he stumbled upon an old journal in a dusty corner of his grandfather's attic, detailing the coordinates to this very island, he felt a surge of destiny. It was a sign, a calling he couldn't ignore. Gathering a small crew of like-minded adventurers, Jacob prepared his vessel for the unknown. As the ship sailed away from the bustling harbor, a sense of quiet fell over the team. They were leaving behind the known world, venturing into what could only be described as a legend. Days turned into nights, and still, the endless horizon revealed no trace of land. Just as hope began to wane, a thin strip appeared on the horizon. The island was real. As they approached, the crew noticed a strange aura surrounding it, an energy that felt both inviting and ominous. The air grew thick with tension and excitement as the shoreline came into view, and with it, the hint of an alien world beyond anything they'd imagined. They anchored the ship on a rocky shore. Jacob stepped onto the island, feeling an unexplainable calm settle over him. The trees whispered in an unfamiliar language, their branches swaying with a peculiar rhythm. Before long, he saw them, a group of women with luminous eyes, their faces unmarked by age, as though time itself had forgotten them. He was captivated, yet wary, for he knew that whatever lay ahead would test the limits of his courage and resolve. As Jacob took cautious steps further into the island, his heart pounded with both awe and trepidation. The landscape felt otherworldly, as if it held secrets buried in time. The soil beneath his boots was softer than he expected, and the air carried a faint, unfamiliar scent, almost floral yet unearthly. His crew, usually boisterous, walked in a rare silence, their eyes scanning the dense, shadowed forest around them. Then suddenly, the alien women appeared in the distance, as if they had simply materialized from the forest itself. They stood motionless, observing the newcomers with an eerie calm. Each one bore features both familiar and alien, sharp, elegant cheekbones, eyes shimmering like stardust, and skin that seemed to reflect the moonlight with an ethereal glow. The crew shuffled uneasily, but Jacob felt a strange pull, an invitation in their gazes that beckoned him forward. One of the women stepped forward, her movements smooth and deliberate, her eyes fixed on Jacob. In a voice that was soft but resonant, she spoke in a language he didn't recognize, yet somehow understood. A language carried not by words, but by intentions, emotions, and gestures. It was as if the island itself had taught him to understand, and as she spoke, he felt a profound connection to this land and its inhabitants. The woman introduced herself as Lyra, a guardian of her people and the island they call home. She explained that her kind aged at a fraction of the rate of humans, each year stretching into decades of youthful vigor. Time flowed differently here, she hinted, and those who stayed long enough might find themselves changed by it in ways they couldn't imagine. Jacob listened, enraptured, yet a flicker of caution lingered in his mind. What were the true costs of such a timeless existence? Lyra then extended her hand, inviting Jacob and his crew to follow her into the heart of the island. With each step, the forest grew denser, the air richer, as though they were descending into a realm untouched by civilization. Jacob could feel the eyes of the women upon them, assessing, perhaps even judging. It was clear that they weren't hostile, but neither were they fully welcoming. This was a place of caution, of secrets guarded over centuries. As they reached a clearing, Jacob's breath caught. In the center lay a shimmering pool, its waters reflecting the starlit sky above. Lyra explained that this was the pool of eternity, a source of life and youth for her people. Here, time was fluid, bending and stretching in ways that defied human understanding. Jacob couldn't tear his gaze away, entranced by the possibility of what lay within. Lyra's voice pulled him back to the present. She warned them that to drink from the pool was to commit to the island's rhythm, to live a life unbound by human time. Jacob's mind raced, wrestling with the idea. Was this what he had come here for? The chance to live outside the limits of ordinary life, to become part of a mystery that spanned millennia. Yet, he sensed a warning in her eyes, a reminder that choices here were irreversible. Turning to his crew, Jacob saw the same mix of wonder and apprehension reflected in their faces. Each of them was faced with a decision that would forever alter the course of their lives. But Jacob knew he couldn't rush this choice. He needed to understand more of this place, its people, and the true nature of the gift, or curse, that awaited those who stayed. As the night deepened, the crew settled around the clearing, sharing quiet conversations under the watchful gaze of their hosts. Lyra and her people remained, ever observant, their expressions unreadable, as if they were studying the intentions of these human visitors. Jacob felt the weight of the moment, aware that this was only the beginning of a journey more profound than he could have ever anticipated. As dawn broke over the island, casting golden hues across the surreal landscape, Jacob found himself unable to shake the sense of profound unease mingled with fascination. The previous night had left a lingering mystery, a feeling that there was more to the island than Lyra had revealed. His thoughts were interrupted as his crew stirred, their expressions still a mixture of awe and trepidation. They had ventured into the unknown together, but the weight of the island's promise hung over them like an unspoken pact. Lyra approached them again, her presence as enigmatic as the island itself. She gestured toward a path leading further inland, winding through groves of trees that seemed to bend and twist in impossible ways. Without a word, Jacob and his crew followed, the forest growing denser around them, each step carrying them deeper into a world that felt like a waking dream. They arrived at an ancient stone structure, partially overtaken by vines, its surface etched with symbols none of them recognized. Lyra explained that this was the sanctuary of ages, a place where her people came to meditate, to reflect on the passage of time, or rather, the lack of it. She invited them to step inside, to feel the essence of the place that had preserved her people for centuries. Inside, the air was thick and cool, a stark contrast to the humid warmth outside. The walls seemed to pulse with a strange energy, as though they held memories of countless lives. Jacob found himself drawn to a large stone tablet inscribed with intricate carvings. Lyra explained that these carvings told the story of her people, the Ilari, who had discovered the secrets of extended life, but had also learned to respect its boundaries. As they explored, Lyra revealed more about the Ilari's history. She spoke of their once thriving civilization, and how, centuries ago, they had been on the brink of extinction due to a mysterious illness. In their desperation, they discovered the pool of eternity, which granted them life beyond measure. Yet, as generations passed, they realized this gift came with a price, a gradual detachment from the world, a growing isolation from all that was once familiar. Listening to her story, Jacob couldn't help but ponder the implications. Immortality, it seemed, was as much a burden as it was a blessing. It was clear that the Ilari had achieved something extraordinary, but they had also paid dearly for it, confined to the island and bound by the unchanging passage of time. A part of him wondered if his curiosity had led him to something beyond human understanding, something that might challenge the very nature of what it meant to be alive. Suddenly, one of his crew members, Tom, broke the silence. With an impulsive grin, he declared his eagerness to drink from the pool, to seize the chance at immortality. His boldness surprised Jacob, who had always known Tom as practical and grounded. But there was something about the island, its allure, its promise of timeless life, that seemed to cloud reason. Lyra looked at Tom with a mixture of sadness and understanding, as though she had seen this moment countless times before. She warned him again, softly, that drinking from the pool would bind him to the island. separating him from the life he once knew. But Tom's mind was set. He saw immortality as freedom, an escape from the ordinary. Despite Lyra's caution, he approached the pool, his face alight with excitement as he bent to take a drink. The transformation was subtle at first. Tom's expression shifted, a look of distant wonder softening his features. He turned to the others with a radiant smile, proclaiming that he felt lighter, more alive than he had ever been. Yet, as he spoke, something flickered in his eyes, a hint of detachment, as if a part of him was already drifting away. Jacob watched in silent apprehension. The crew's reactions were mixed. Some looked on with envy, others with a quiet horror. Tom's choice had cast a shadow over their expedition, a reminder that the island's mysteries came at a cost. Jacob felt the weight of responsibility settle over him, his own desires clashing with his duty to keep his crew safe. As the sun climbed higher, Lyra gently ushered them back toward the shore, suggesting they rest before making any further decisions. Jacob could sense an unspoken tension between the crew members, a divide forming between those who were tempted by the island's odor and those who were wary of its consequences. That night, as they sat by the shore under a canopy of stars, Jacob felt a quiet determination rise within him. He knew he had come seeking answers, but now he found himself questioning if he was prepared for the truths he might uncover. In the silence, he resolved to understand the island's mysteries before making any choice that could alter the course of his life. And as he gazed out at the endless horizon, he wondered if he would ever be able to return to the world he had once known. The following morning, Jacob awoke to the sound of quiet murmurs among the crew. Tom, who had drunk from the pool of eternity the day before, seemed different. His skin had taken on a subtle, radiant glow, and his movements were slower, more deliberate, as if he had all the time in the world. The change was unsettling. His normally quick, lively demeanor had faded into something otherworldly, a calm that bordered on eerie. As Jacob approached, Tom looked up with a serene smile. "You don't understand, Jacob," he murmured. "It's as if time no longer matters. The worries, the fears, they're all gone." His voice had a distant quality, almost as if he were speaking from another plane. Jacob felt a chill run down his spine. He had lost friends before, but this was different. Tom was right in front of him, yet he felt farther away than ever. Lyra appeared beside them, her gaze softened with empathy. She explained that this transformation was common among those who embraced the island's gift. With every day that passed, Tom would feel less connected to his past life, his memories slipping like sand through his fingers. In time, he would find peace in the present moment, in the eternal now, but at a cost, the slow erasure of everything that made him who he once was. For the rest of the crew, the reality of Tom's transformation struck a sobering note. The island's allure was no longer just a myth. It was a tangible force, powerful and irreversible. One of the younger crew members, Sam, voiced what many were thinking. If this is what the pool does, then it's not a gift. It's a prison. Who would want to live forever if it means losing yourself? Jacob sensed the rising tension. Some of the crew felt trapped, others felt curious, and a few, like Tom, seemed almost seduced by the promise of timeless life. Despite its risks, the rift was growing, and he knew that to prevent further divisions, he needed to keep them focused. They hadn't come here to chase after eternal youth. They had come seeking answers, mysteries buried in the heart of this ancient land. Turning to Lyra, Jacob asked if there were any other parts of the island where they might learn more about its history. She hesitated, then gestured toward a narrow path leading deeper into the forest, warning them that this path was not for the faint-hearted. It led to the Cave of Echoes, a place where the Illyri came to confront their own memories and fears. It was said that the cave would show them not only who they were but who they could become, reflecting their choices back to them in vivid detail. As they made their way along the winding trail, the atmosphere grew heavy, as if the island itself was watching. The crew walked in silence, each of them lost in thought. The path was lined with trees that twisted in unnatural shapes, their branches reaching out like grasping hands. Every now and then, Jacob thought he heard whispers, faint echoes of voices that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. When they reached the mouth of the Cave of Echoes, an eerie stillness settled over the group. The entrance was dark, a gaping maw in the hillside, its shadows thick and impenetrable. Lyra reminded them that the cave would reveal their deepest truths, for better or worse. Some hesitated, but Jacob took a deep breath and stepped inside, the crew following closely behind. Inside, the air was cool and damp, the silence punctuated by the occasional drip of water echoing through the darkness. As they ventured further, the walls began to glow faintly, casting a ghostly light that illuminated the faces of the crew. Suddenly, the cave seemed to come alive. Shadows shifted and took form, swirling around them in a mesmerizing dance. Jacob watched in awe as images began to appear, familiar yet distorted. He saw himself as a child, standing beside his grandfather, who told him stories of distant lands and mysterious islands. His grandfather's words echoed in his mind. There are places in this world that hold secrets beyond our understanding. Seek them, but tread carefully, for knowledge is a double-edged sword. The vision faded, and Jacob felt a surge of conflicting emotions. His curiosity had brought him here, but now he wondered if he had overstepped, if the island's mysteries were meant to remain untouched. He glanced around, seeing the same haunted look on the faces of his crew as they confronted their own reflections in the cave's ethereal light. Suddenly, Tom's voice cut through the silence, his tone filled with awe. "This place, it's like a mirror of the soul." He seemed entranced, almost hypnotized, as he watched a vision of himself in the cave's glow. But his image was different, aged, weathered, a stranger to the youthful face he wore now. The vision whispered to him, words only he could hear, and Jacob saw a flash of fear cross Tom's face. For a moment, Tom seemed to break free from the cave's hold, the haunted look of realization dawning in his eyes. He turned to Jacob, his expression filled with something close to desperation. "What have I done, Jacob? What if I never leave this place? What if I forget everything?" Before Jacob could respond, the visions around them faded, leaving them in darkness once more. The crew stood in stunned silence, each of them reeling from what they had seen. It was clear that the cave had given them a glimpse into the possible futures that awaited them, should they choose to remain. They stumbled out of the cave, shaken and silent, the weight of their experience pressing heavily on their minds. For Jacob, the journey had taken on a new dimension. He had come in search of adventure, perhaps even a legacy, but now he was faced with a choice far more complex than he'd ever imagined. Emerging from the Cave of Echoes, the crew was left in a hushed, contemplative silence. The morning sun filtered through the dense canopy, casting fractured light onto their faces, but the warmth did little to lift the chill left by the cave's visions. Each of them wore an expression touched by fear, regret, or newfound determination. The cave had forced them to confront the truths they carried within. And for some, those truths were far darker than they had anticipated. Jacob's mind raced as he replayed the vision of his grandfather's warning, his words a haunting echo that lingered in his thoughts. He felt torn between the magnetic pull of the island's mysteries and the responsibility he bore to his crew. More than ever, he needed to find clarity, to understand what bound this place and its people to time in such a strange way. As they gathered at the edge of the forest, Lyra appeared, her calm presence somehow both a comfort and a reminder of the island's mysteries. She could see the tension in their eyes, the weight of the revelations they had encountered. She explained that the island's timelessness was both a blessing and a curse, a delicate balance that demanded respect. Her people, the Ilari, had learned to accept this balance, but only through centuries of sacrifice and hard choices. Tom, still visibly shaken by his experience in the cave, took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I thought immortality was a gift," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But now, I'm not sure what I believe anymore." He looked to Lyra, as if hoping for reassurance, but her gaze remained unreadable. Seeing his crew's doubts, Jacob asked Lyra about the origins of the Ilari's ageless existence. Her expression softened, and she led them to a secluded grove nearby, where ancient statues stood among the trees, weathered by time yet eerily preserved. She explained that long ago, the Ilari had been much like ordinary humans. They lived, loved, and feared death as any human might, but a powerful storm had cast them onto this island, where they discovered the pool of eternity by chance. Drinking from it had spared them from aging, yet it had also bound them to the island, unable to leave its shores without losing the gift they had received. As Lyra's story unfolded, Jacob began to understand the depth of her people's sacrifice. They had chosen a life unmoored from time, yet bound to the island, separated from the world they once knew. Each of them had sacrificed something: connections, memories, perhaps even a sense of identity. To remain ageless, doesn't it become lonely? Sam asked, his voice tinged with sadness. Lyra nodded, her gaze distant. We are bound to each other, but yes, there are times when the weight of immortality feels like a heavy burden. We live in a single moment stretched across centuries. Friendships and bonds become our anchors, the only ties to who we once were. Her eyes met Jacob's, a silent understanding passing between them. She was reminding him, in her quiet way, that choices like these shaped more than a person's lifespan. They shaped the very core of who they were. As they listened, Jacob sensed a shift within his crew. They were no longer merely adventurers seeking thrills. They had become part of the island's story, entangled in its eternal cycles. He could feel the pull of fate binding them, as if each of their choices would leave an indelible mark on the island and its people. That evening, Jacob gathered his crew around the fire, their faces illuminated by its flickering glow. We each came here for something different, he began, his tone steady but charged with conviction. Maybe it was adventure, or answers, or a taste of something extraordinary. But now we know that there's more to this place than any of us imagined. Whatever we choose from here on out, we must understand the price. The crew listened in silence, the weight of his words settling over them like a shared burden. Each of them had their own reasons for being here, but they were united by the same question. Was the promise of a timeless life worth the sacrifices it demanded? Tom spoke first, his voice filled with resolve. I've made my choice. I wanted this, and now I'll see it through. There was a quiet acceptance in his words, a sense that he had come to terms with his decision, despite the cost. The others exchanged glances, some nodding, others still wrestling with their doubts. But as the night wore on, Jacob found himself torn. The island held a magnetic pull, one that promised answers to questions he had carried for years. Yet he knew that if he stayed, he would be giving up more than he could understand. A part of himself, perhaps, or the life he had once imagined. It was a choice that went beyond his own desires, encompassing his loyalty to his crew and the legacy he hoped to leave behind. Lyra joined them at the fire's edge, her presence quiet but grounding. She looked to Jacob, sensing his inner struggle. The island offers many things, she said softly, but it does not give purpose. That is something you must find within yourself. Her words struck a chord within him, reminding him that purpose was not bound to time, nor to place. It was something he carried, something he had to define on his own terms. In the silence that followed, Jacob felt a moment of clarity. He had come to the island seeking answers, but perhaps he had found something more, a deeper understanding of his own path. Turning to his crew, he spoke with a newfound resolve. We came here together, and we'll leave here together, he said, his voice firm. No matter what we've seen, we're still bound by the lives we left behind. This island has shown us its wonders, but it's time we remember who we are. As dawn approached, the crew prepared to depart, gathering their belongings and sharing quiet farewells with Lyra and the other Ilari. Each of them carried a piece of the island within them, a memory that would stay with them long after they returned to the world beyond. And as they set sail, The island faded into the distance, shrouded once more in mist and mystery. Yet Jacob knew that its impact would linger, a reminder of the choices they had made and the lives they had touched. The sea stretched endlessly before them, yet he felt a sense of completion, a calm certainty that their journey had not ended, it had only just begun. As the island grew smaller in the distance, a hush settled over the crew, each member lost in thought, their minds echoing with the experiences of the past few days. They had come seeking adventure, but they were leaving with something far deeper, an understanding of life, mortality, and the fragile nature of identity. Jacob watched as the coastline faded into a mere outline on the horizon, a part of him still tethered to the mysteries they were leaving behind. Tom, who had chosen to drink from the pool of eternity, seemed caught in a liminal space between the present and a distant reality. Though his demeanor remained calm, there was an undeniable distance in his gaze, a hint of regret mixed with an acceptance that made Jacob's heart ache. Tom was now bound to the island, in mind if not in body, and Jacob feared that the man he had once known might be slipping away. That evening, as they sailed further into open waters, Jacob gathered the crew on deck. A somber atmosphere hung over them, the familiar camaraderie tinged with an unspoken sadness. They had shared dreams of grandeur, but this journey had altered them, their bonds tested by the choices they'd made. Jacob took a deep breath, feeling the weight of leadership upon him as he addressed his friends. "We came here for adventure," he began, his voice steady. "But what we've discovered goes beyond any story we could have imagined. Each of us has been changed, in ways we may not fully understand yet. And Tom, your choice is yours to bear, but know that you are not alone." Tom looked up, his face softened with gratitude, but a trace of sorrow lingered in his eyes. "Thank you, Jacob," he replied quietly. "I knew what I was risking, but a part of me wonders, what might I have lost?" He trailed off, his gaze drifting toward the horizon, as though searching for answers in the endless expanse of sea. One by one, the crew members shared their reflections, each voice a thread in the tapestry of their journey. Sam, who had been wary from the beginning, spoke of his relief at leaving the island behind, while others admitted they felt a profound sense of loss. They had glimpsed a world beyond their understanding, and though they had turned away, a piece of them would always be drawn back to that mysterious shore. As night deepened, Jacob remained on deck, gazing up at the stars, the constellations a reminder of his grandfather's stories and his own restless spirit. He had ventured into the unknown, not to escape life, but to understand it, and in doing so, he had found himself changed. The island's lessons, though shrouded in enigma, had taught him that life's meaning was not in longevity or power, but in connection, purpose, and choice. Lyra's words echoed in his mind, her gentle reminder that purpose could not be gifted, only discovered. Jacob felt a renewed sense of clarity, a quiet confidence that his path was now clearer than ever. He was returning to the world, but he carried with him the wisdom of the island, a knowledge that transcended time and space. The following morning, the crew awoke to the sound of calm waves as they neared familiar shores. The island, with all its mysteries, was far behind them now, but the memories lingered in their hearts, woven into the fabric of who they had become. Jacob felt a mix of relief and nostalgia as the coastline of their homeland came into view, a place that once seemed mundane now imbued with new significance. As they prepared to disembark, Jacob gathered his crew one last time, his voice filled with warmth and gratitude. "Thank you, all of you, for taking this journey with me," he said, his gaze sweeping over each of them. "Whatever paths we choose from here, know that we're forever bound by what we shared on that island." One by one, the crew members stepped onto the dock, each carrying the weight of their experience in their own way. Some were eager to return to their lives, while others lingered, reluctant to leave the bonds they had forged. Tom was the last to disembark, his steps slow, as if the very earth beneath him was unfamiliar. He turned to Jacob, offering a faint smile tinged with resignation. Maybe someday I'll understand what the island gave me, Tom murmured, his voice barely audible. But for now, I'll hold on to what I still remember. With a final nod, Tom walked away, leaving Jacob alone on the dock. He watched his friend disappear into the distance, feeling a mixture of sadness and peace. They had all made their choices, each one irrevocably changed by the island's mysteries. And though their paths diverged, Jacob knew their lives were forever intertwined by the threads of fate, bound to the stories they had lived together. As he turned to face the open sea, Jacob felt a sense of completion. The island had given him more than he had ever expected, not immortality, but understanding, not escape, but purpose. And as he stood there, watching the waves lap against the shore, he realized that his journey had only just begun. The mysteries of life stretched before him, infinite and unknowable, and he was ready to face them, one adventure at a time. The days turned into weeks as the crew slowly reintegrated into their daily lives, but none of them were untouched by their journey. Each carried with them a piece of the island, its mysteries, its lessons, and the shadows it left on their hearts. For Jacob, however, life felt different in a way he hadn't anticipated. He found himself seeking solitude, reflecting on the island's meaning and the choices he had made. He spent countless hours poring over his grandfather's journals, searching for insights he might have missed, clues that could help him make sense of what he had experienced. But each page only reminded him of the island's outer and its quiet warning. He had been to a place that defied time, yet the questions it raised lingered like an unfinished story, one he knew he would never truly understand. One evening, as he sat on his porch overlooking the sea, a familiar figure approached, their expressions lined with age, but their eyes shining with something timeless. It was Lyra. She had found a way to cross the boundaries of the island, though the effort had visibly taxed her. Her presence felt surreal, a reminder of the secrets that lay beyond the horizon. "Jacob," she greeted, her voice as soft as the breeze that stirred the waves. "I needed to see you, to thank you for respecting our ways. You and your crew came to the island as strangers, but you left as allies." Jacob was struck by her words, by the weight they carried. "I didn't expect to see you again," he admitted, feeling a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. "After everything we saw, I thought the island's pull would keep you there." Lyra smiled, her eyes glimmering with wisdom. "The island holds us only as tightly as we hold it. I have watched many choose to stay, losing themselves in its timeless grasp. But you and your crew understood something deeper, something most never see." As they spoke, Lyra shared stories of others who had come to the island over the centuries. Some had sought eternal life and paid dearly for it, while others had come looking for purpose, only to realize that their answers lay within themselves all along. She had seen joy and sorrow in equal measure, but in Jacob she saw a rare balance, an acceptance that few achieved. "Your friend Tom," she said softly, "is at peace now. He will live as the Ilari do, experiencing life moment by moment, free from the burdens of time. And though he may forget his past, he will find happiness in the present." Hearing this, Jacob felt a wave of relief mixed with melancholy. Tom's fate had haunted him, a reminder of the sacrifices demanded by the island. Yet, knowing that Tom would find peace eased the ache in his heart. He looked at Lyra, feeling a kinship he hadn't expected, a bond forged in shared mysteries, and the silent understanding of paths taken and paths abandoned. "Lyra, what's to become of the island?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. "Will it continue to draw others, to test them as it tested us?" She nodded, her expression serene. "The island is a part of the world's hidden tapestry, a place that exists to reveal the truths within those who seek it. As long as there are souls yearning for answers, the island will remain a guide for those who are willing to listen." They sat in silence, the stars emerging one by one as night descended. Lyra's presence was comforting, a reminder that some bonds transcended the limits of time and place. And as Jacob gazed at the stars, He felt a renewed sense of purpose, a quiet understanding that his journey wasn't over. He had touched something eternal, and in doing so, he had found a path that would guide him for the rest of his life. When Lyra finally rose to leave, she looked at him with a fondness that spoke of respect and gratitude. "Farewell, Jacob. May you find the answers you seek, wherever your journey takes you." As she disappeared into the darkness, Jacob felt a profound peace settle over him. The mysteries of the island had woven themselves into the fabric of his life, and though he could not return to that place, its legacy would stay with him forever. With one last look at the sea, he knew he was ready to move forward. As the years passed, Jacob carried the island's memory like a quiet ember in his soul, a constant reminder of the truths he had uncovered and the choices he had made. He returned to his life, yet something had shifted within him. Every sunrise, every starlit sky held new meaning, echoing the island's timeless presence. Jacob dedicated himself to exploration, traveling to places he had once only dreamed of, seeking stories, legends, and truths hidden in the world's forgotten corners. He sought not to conquer or collect, but to understand. Each journey brought him closer to the purpose he had glimpsed on the island, a purpose that lay in curiosity, respect, and a reverence for the unknown. He crossed mountains and deserts, trekked through dense jungles, and sailed across vast oceans, meeting people from all walks of life. With each encounter, he shared pieces of the wisdom he had gained, tales of the island and its silent teachings. Though he never mentioned the Ilari or the pool of eternity, he spoke of choices, of the weight and value of time, of living with intention. Every so often, he would think of Tom, imagining his friend's ageless life on the island. In his heart, he wished him peace and hoped that, wherever he was, Tom had found the happiness he had once sought. Jacob knew that their paths had diverged, yet he felt their spirits remained connected, like two stars in the vast night sky, each on its own trajectory yet bound by shared history. One day, while exploring an ancient temple on the edge of a small coastal village, Jacob discovered an artifact that reminded him of the symbols he had seen in the Cave of Echoes. The markings, intricate and otherworldly, seemed to speak to him, drawing him back to memories of the island. As he traced his fingers over the stone, he felt a surge of emotion, a reminder of Lyra, of the Ilari, and of the timeless bond they shared. He took a step back, smiling softly to himself. The island had left its mark, woven into the very fabric of his journey. It was a reminder that life's mysteries were boundless, that there were always new places to explore, new people to meet, and new stories to live. Years turned into decades, and Jacob grew older. The youthful spirit that had once driven him softened with age, replaced by a gentle wisdom that emanated from him like a quiet flame. He became known in small villages and remote towns, a traveler with stories that sparked wonder and curiosity. People listened as he spoke of his journeys, entranced by the tales of places that lay beyond their understanding. In his final years, Jacob returned to the coast where it all began. He settled in a modest home by the sea, content to watch the waves roll in and out, the rhythm of life echoing the lessons he had learned. His days were spent in quiet reflection, and his nights were filled with dreams of faraway shores and forgotten legends. The island lived on in his memory, a sanctuary he would carry until his last breath. One starlit evening, as he sat on his porch gazing at the endless expanse of ocean, Jacob felt a familiar presence. It was almost as if the spirit of the island had come to bid him farewell. He closed his eyes, breathing in the night air, feeling at peace with the life he had lived and the choices he had made. As dawn broke, Jacob passed away quietly, a gentle smile on his face, his spirit finally free to join the mysteries he had spent his life exploring. Decades later, stories of Jacob, the man who traveled the world seeking wisdom, spread across villages and towns, passed down from one generation to the next. He became a figure of legend, a man who had glimpsed truths beyond time, who had once found an island where life and time intertwined in ways unknown to humanity. Some claimed he had found the secret to immortality, while others believed he had communed with otherworldly beings. Yet those closest to him remembered his kindness, his humility, and his unyielding respect for life's mysteries. His legacy was not one of endless life, but of endless curiosity and the courage to seek truth, no matter how elusive. The island remained hidden, its existence a myth that whispered through the winds of the sea. And somewhere beyond the horizon, in a realm untouched by time, Lyra and the Illyri continued to live, forever bound to the secrets of the pool of eternity, guardians of a sanctuary known only to a select few. As new travelers set sail, following the call of adventure, the island waited, timeless and serene, ready to reveal its mysteries to those brave enough to seek it. And so the legacy of Jacob, the island, and the Illyri lived on, a testament to the timeless dance between curiosity and wisdom, life and eternity, humanity and the unknown.